and that is reproduction in organism. Friends, we know that every organism has its particular lifetime. If we talk about a rat, an elephant, a banyan tree, a blue whale, or a simple moth, all have its own life period, lifetime. This lifetime is only termed as lifespan. If you see the definition of a lifespan, each and every organism can live only for a certain period of time. Only for a certain period of time. And that time is defined. The period from the birth to the natural death of an organism represents its lifespan. Now here, again, one thing is very important, that is natural death. Now, why I am saying natural death? Because simple, if it is defined dying, so that is not certain for any organism. Any organism, for example, if a seed of a mango you brought, you sow it into the ground, it develop into the small seedlings, and instantly, if some grazing animal grazes it off, definitely the life of the plant has been gone. So that is not called as a lifespan. How it completes its life cycle? So, from the birth, any organism attend the stage of reproduction. After performing the reproduction, after attaining the reproductive stage, it has a senescence stage. And after senescence stage, it undergoes the natural process that is called as the natural death. These stages, that is reproductive and senescence stage, we will discuss in upcoming video lectures. So that I will leave now. So here the time span, the time between birth to the natural death, that is called as lifespan. Well, if you can see here, there are on your screen many of the organisms you can see, right from a very big animal that is called as an elephant to a very small animal that is called as a fruit fly. All this organisms has its own lifespan. All this organisms has its own lifespan. For example, it is an elephant. So, while talking to the lifespan of an elephant, we all know it is 75 years. 75 years. The lifespan of elephant is 75 years. Similarly, if we talk about rose, the lifespan of rose is approximately 10 years. For crow, it is mentioned 15 years. For parrot, it is mentioned 140 years. Similarly, most of the organisms are there. For example, dog, banyan tree, crocodile, turtle, horse, and other organisms are there. Here, I would like to discuss two important things. The first one is this lifespan. Can you see some similarity between the body size of an elephant and a parrot? Well, definitely, we all know that elephant is huge animal rather than the parrot. But in terms of lifespan, if you see, parrot has a lifespan of 140 years, while elephant has a lifespan of only 75 years. Similarly, so lifespan does not depend upon the size of the body. Rather than, it is a specific trait which depends upon the complexity of the organism, its genetics, its genes, and many other factors. But wait, as I told now, that all the organisms if it birth, it has to die. As per the biology, no organism is immortal. But can you tell me few organisms which are immortal? So I am leaving this question for you. My question is, name the organisms which are immortal. Stay tuned with this video. We will discuss the same question in a short while. So, now the question arises, an organism which bonds, for example, due to the evolution of a life, we all know that life originates billions years back, and the organism, cyanobacteria, is the first living organism. And nowadays also you could able to find the cyanobacteria. As far as the characteristic of the living organisms are concerned, the most important characteristic of any living organism is its metabolism. Metabolism is a term which defines between living and non-living world. All living world, it has a metabolism. They perform, all the organisms perform metabolism, but non-living organisms, they does not have such type of characteristics. Another very important feature for any living organism is reproduction. Well, that is reproduction. Let me tell you a very interesting fact here. You all know about cyanobacteria, also called as a blue-green algae. That is you all know that it is the first living organism on the earth. But do we know that before the cyanobacteria also many organisms also came, but that we are not categorizing them into a living category. For example, before cyanobacteria, conservates are there. Before conservates, microspheres were there. But microspheres and conservates, they are not considered as living organisms. And do you know why? When these are the organisms which formed before cyanobacteria, they should be considered as living organisms. But it is not so. Because they does not have the power of reproduction. They cannot reproduce themselves. And that is the biggest feature that we are not including them in the living organism. So reproduction is a very important phenomenon. As you can see here, reproduction, that is defined as a biological process in which organisms give rise to the young ones or offsprings, and that is similar to itself. Whatever the progenies are formed, whatever the organisms are formed due to the reproduction, that is called as either progeny, or if we talk about unicellular organism, it is called as daughter cell or offsprings. And that offsprings are similar to the parental, similar to the parents. So if there is a, for example, if again I have taken the example of a mango plant, if I have taken a seed of a mango, and that mango seed I am going to sow it. So which plant I am going to get? Well, definitely mango, we all know. Why? Because the reproduction is in a property that the parents will form, maybe sexual or asexual, the parents will form the progeny, and that progeny will be of same type. Of same type. So that's why it is very important to understand that in reproduction, the organisms are similar to itself. Again, the question arises that I have taken the concept of here microspheres and conservates, and they does not have the reproduction. So what is basic significance of reproduction? Why reproduction is so important? Well, if we talk about the significance of reproduction, reproduction has four important significances. The first one is it is very important for continuity of a species. Any species which is formed, that species perform reproduction so that its genes will remain conserved, so that its genes will transfer from one parental generation to another offspring generation. The second important part, so that's why it is important for the continuity of a species. Any species which is formed, that species must have the process of reproduction to continue this. Another one is this is very important for the existence of life. Now, what happened with the microspheres? A simple bilipid membrane with some type of nucleotide. We cannot say it as a genetic material, but yes, some of the nucleotides were there. But that cannot able to generate a life because metabolism was not there and because reproduction was not there. So that's why for continuity of life, reproduction is very important. Again, replacement. In this chapter, later on we are going to study about sexual reproduction. The replacement is very important. Any organism which born, undergoes its life cycle, and after that, when during its senescence stage, it is very important for it to undergo the replacement. So, if I am talking about here, it has two words. Either one, replacement in terms of asexual reproduction, and in terms of sexual reproduction. We are talking about asexual reproduction. So, you all know about the amoeba, about the bacteria. Before achieving the stage of senescence, they divide, forming nuclei. As far as sexual reproduction is important, you all have studied in class 10th and moreover in class 11th also the process of meiosis, due to which crossing over takes place, and due to the crossing over, the genes of parents, maternal as well as paternal, undergoes exchange. As a result, the progeny which is formed is with more advanced character rather than the parental generation. So that is again very important for replacement. It is very important for existence of life and stabilization of life in the course of evolution. Similarly, variation, or more perfectly we should say very useful variation. Now remember class 10th, you all have studied about the evolution and pattern of evolution. Whenever the variation takes place in an organism, whether that variation is acceptable by the nature or not, that is called as natural selection, we all know. And that natural selection based upon the genes and genetics, the new genes and genetics of that organism. Now remember about the natural selection of in moth, or we will study about the proper evolution. In the chapter of evolution, we will discuss that how the variations are very useful for existence of life, but they are very important. So these are the few important significances for the reproduction. Well, before starting further and dealing this chapter, reproduction is not only to form an organism, but it is also a process of which can be performed by a single cell organism or which can be performed by a multicellular organism. Different type of cell divisions takes place. This topic you have already studied in class 11th. I need not to discuss here a lot. Just I would like to highlight the three types of cell divisions which takes place during reproduction. We all know one is called as amitosis. Then mitosis, and then meiosis. that is meiosis. Well, we're talking about the amitosis. It is a very simple type of division in which cytokinesis, that is the division of cell, cytoplasm, karyokinesis, that is division of a nucleus, takes place in simultaneous way. Well, if I'm talking about mitosis, we all know all the somatic cells of the organism perform the mitosis, and this is a division also called as an equational division, because the diploid organism, that is 2N organism or 2N cell, will form 2N cell, and the haploid cell, that is N, will again form the haploid cell, that is N. So there is, the chromosome numbers will remain conserved. It does not undergo any type of changes or any type of reduction. So that's why it is called as an equational division, a very important division which is important for multiplying of cells or growth of the cells. Another one is the meiosis, a division which takes place in gametes, or I should say the division which takes place for the formation of gametes. For the formation of gametes. Because whatever the gamete mother cells, these all gamete mother cells are diploid. And from a diploid gamete mother cells, due to meiosis, four haploid cells we are going to get, and it is a very important division. Why? Because for the gamete formation, meiosis is important. Otherwise, you think about a situation, just I am taking for a fun. If you think about a situation that in the human being there are 46 chromosomes, we all know, or I should say there are 23 pairs of chromosomes. And just think, if 23 pairs of chromosomes means one head and two hands, so it is important to perform the reduction division during the gamete formation. If it does not take place, now just think about that. If it does not take place, suppose if mother with 23 pair of chromosomes went to process with the male with another 23 pair of chromosomes, so how many pairs we are going to get? 46 pair we are going to get. 46 pair of chromosome we are going to get. So it does not have anything with biology, but just I am taking it to the fun. If 23 pairs of chromosome means one head and two hand, then 46 pair of chromosome means two head and four hand. Now think about a situation if it is 10th generation or 12th generation. So though nothing such like is going to happen, and nothing such happened also, but just for the sake of that. So again, coming to the topic here, so we have three types of cell division: amitosis, mitosis and meiosis, and these three types of cell division is very important whenever we are discussing about the reproduction. Well, if we talk about the type of reproduction, yes, reproduction is basically of two types. You all know very well. That is asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproductions are those in which biparental conditions are not required, and sexual reproductions are those in which biparental conditions are required. So here, two parents are required, one which imparted in male, another which imparted in female, and uniparental, which have asexual reproductions are uniparental, single parents are there. So these are differences you have already studied, just I am brushing off your knowledge. So another one, sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is purely germinal. There are two types of cells in the body. One is called as the somatic cells, another one is called as the germ cells. So sexual reproduction, they are germinal, and asexual reproduction, it is somatogenic. Somatogenic means the somatic cells are participating in the asexual reproduction, but the germinal cells are participating in sexual reproduction. For example, if I am talking about a plant, stem, root, buds, they all are called as somatic cells. So if any reproduction which takes place through the somatic cells, it is asexual, and while the megaspore mother cell, microspore mother cell, they all are called as germinal cells, and they form the sexual reproduction. Another, gamete does not participate, because when it is somatic cells never forms gamete, and here gamete fusion takes place to form the zygote. So male, paternal and maternal both gamete fuses here, and that after fusion it forms a zygote, you all know. daughters are genetically similar. Why I am saying daughters are genetically similar? Because it is a uniparent. So there is no chances of crossing over or recombination or whatever the complex mechanism which takes place under the sexual reproduction. And here if we talk about offspring are admixture of the genetic makeup. Now who's that admixture? Their parental generations admixture. So offsprings are there. They are it's a genetic makeup. Why makeup? Because of the crossing over, because of the recombination which we have studied in class 11 in Prophase 1. Remember the 5 stages of Prophase 1. Similarly, since these asexual type of reproductions are less complex, hence they are quick, and if we are talking about sexual reproductions, they are more complex and hence they are slow. The adaptability of the evolutions, since there is no gene combination is there, so their adaptability is almost all poor or absent because recombination does not take place, while adaptability and evolution are present. Sorry, it's not absent, it is present. So adaptability and evolution takes place. Due to this, the organism, the progeny, can better way suitable, can live in this environment in a much better and adaptive way. Well, next talk about the various types of asexual, the various features or characteristics of asexual reproduction. Just one by one we can go. Asexual reproductions are formation of, it concerns with the formation of clones. Clones, those organisms which are genetically and morphologically similar to the parents. So that is the feature. They are uniparental. It is a quick mode, they have now studied. Meiosis is completely absent. Asexual reproduction, either it performs mitosis because no gamete cells are participating, no gametes are participating, so meiosis is completely absent. Haploid-diploid cycles are also absent. There is no haploidy and diploidy cycle. If it is in a haploid organism, the progeny will be haploid. If it is a diploid, again the progeny will be diploid, and so on. It is uniparental. We have discussed. It is somatogenic, that is somatic cells, they are formed from the somatic cells. It is agamogenesis. It performs agamogenesis. A means absent, gamo means gametes, and genesis means formation. So since gamete formation are not taking place here, so the gamete formation is also not taking place and gamete participation is also not taking place. So, but such type of asexual reproduction has some advantages also. They are very quick. In a very short time, if we want to cultivate many organisms, they are large in number. They are very large in their number, and they are very simple type of reproduction. Now let us discuss about let us discuss about the types of asexual reproduction. There are various types of asexual reproduction we are going to deal with in a detailed way. That is binary fission, torulation, budding, plasmotomy, vegetative propagation, sporulation, multiple fission, and fermentation. So let's have a look one by one that what are they. The first one is binary fission. A very simple type of reproduction we all have studied in class 10th also. Binary, as the name indicates, bi means two and fission. Fission means splitting. So here what happened, a single parent body undergoes a very simple type of division which involves karyokinesis and cytokinesis, and then it forms the respective daughter cells or new daughter cells. Students, if I am talking about the binary fission is basically of three types. The first one is called as a simple binary fission. So as a simple binary fission, you can see here in this diagram, that is the amoeba. It is a simple binary fission. It does not have any plane. So simple organism, amoeba, the nucleus starts splitting here, and it can split from any plane of body, either from this plane of body or from this plane of body or from this plane of body. So it can split from any plane of body, and then it forms its two daughter cells or new daughter amoeba. Such type of binary fissions are called as a simple binary fission because it does not include any plane or else. Another type is longitudinal binary fission. Remember in class 10 you must have studied one question that how the Leishmania binary fission division is different from amoeba binary fission division. So in amoeba it is a aplanar type of binary fission. While if I am talking about another organisms, for example, here we have taken the example of Euglena. So in Euglena or flagellates, what we can see that here the nucleus start dividing, and at the moment the nucleus start dividing, this flagella is also forming a new flagella. From here you can see a new flagella is coming out. As a result, the body plane will divide from this section, and that's why the body will open in the form of a zip, and that's why it is called as a longitudinal binary fission, because it is longitudinally dividing into two separate sections. Another one is transverse binary fission. Why it is called as a transverse binary fission? Because here the body is split obliquely or transversely. The best example for this one is all the ciliates, and most importantly paramecium, as you can see here. So paramecium, as we all know, it has two types of nucleus, micronucleus and macronucleus. So we can see here the micro and macronucleus both undergoes elongation. After this elongation, this is the micronucleus, this is the macronucleus. After elongation, you can see the micronucleus splits off and macronucleus is splitting, and then there is a fissure which is transverse to the body. It is not longitudinal, not aplanar, but it is transverse to the body. And as a result, one organism or one paramecium divides into two. So that type is called as transverse binary fission. Similarly, binary fission is basically a process of division of a parent body into two daughter bodies, and these binary fissions include three types: aplanar, that is transverse binary fission, and longitudinal binary fissions. Another one is multiple fission. Multiple fission, usually what happens normally in amoeba or any other pseudopodial organism. For example, the best example is malarial parasite, that is Plasmodium. As the Plasmodium enters in our body, definitely we have our own immune system, which is going to counter the Plasmodium. But this never stop Plasmodium for multiplication. So at that time, what it will do, it will directly migrate to the liver and affect the liver. We all know this, and that's why it multiplies in the liver, and then again it comes out in a huge number. So that we will discuss again in the upcoming units or chapter, the detailed mechanism. But here in multiple fission, basically whenever the unfavorable conditions are there, so any organism, let me take an example of an amoeba. So any organism, it develops a cyst wall. It develops an outer thick covering that is called as a cyst wall. At the same time, it sheds off its pseudopodia gets sheds off, and internally it keep on multiplying to form different type of cells. These all cells are called as pseudopodiospores. When on the onset of the favorable condition, the cyst wall burst, and as a result, when the cyst wall burst, the pseudopodiospores came out. Next, this is one type of a mechanism. The another type is also called as sporulation. In the process of sporulation, what happens? the amoeba body does not develop a common cyst wall, but its nucleus and cytoplasm divides and it forms many small cysts. And these cysts are simply called as the spores. So this spore has again a thick coat outside, and internally there is a nucleus, there is a cytoplasm. And whenever the favorable condition onsets, this again cyst wall or rupture, the spores get ruptured and the new amoeba came out. So this is multiple fission. It has two things. First of all, under the adverse condition, again I am repeating, under the adverse condition, it forms a thick cell wall. This cell wall is act as a protective role. Here, multiplication begins, but it will not come out. When the favorable condition, the organisms or the cells come out when the cyst wall bursts off. There is another mechanism which is called as a spore formation in the amoeba. In that, the amoeba body does not develop a common cyst. Here and here you can see, here a common cyst is there, but here there is no common cyst. Here every individual spore has their own cyst. And these spores came out, and whenever the conditions are favorable, they develop into the amoeba. So again, that is called as multiple fission. One more type of reproduction in the same type, that is called as a plasmatomy. Again, it is a very important feature of few organisms or asexual feature in which the parental body develop into multinucleated cells. For example, if you are talking about the example, if you see the example of an opalina, this opalina there are many nuclei. As you can see, these are the small cells, these are the small structures which are present here. It is in syncytial condition. Syncytial condition means in multinucleated state, and then it develops into various organisms. Now these organisms, for example, this is an organism, it has more than one nucleus also. Before that only one nucleus is there, here it has more than one nucleus also. So this definition is very important, that plasmatomy is a type of asexual reproduction in which multinucleated protozoan cell divide into two or more multinucleated daughter cells. Multinucleated daughter cell without the occurrence of mitosis. Without the occurrence of mitosis. So that is called as the best example for this one is opalina. Another, again, very important type of the reproduction, and that is called as the torulation. Torulation, we can say it is a budding of a single cell organism. Budding of a single cell organism. Budding, we all know, we have studied in previous classes, it's a simple type. For example, here I have taken an example of a yeast. So this is yeast has a small outgrowth, as you can see here. This small outgrowth is called as a bud. This small outgrowth develop. The nucleus again, as you can see here, this is the nucleus of the parent body. It divides into two nucleus. It divides here, the division is completed, and again the two buds are formed. So, and this is called as a bud. When this bud detaches from the parent body, it again develops into a complete organism. It again develops into the complete organism. That is called as torulation. Next one is sporulation. Sporulation is the formation of spore formation. Now spores are basically of two types. One is called as zoospores and another one is called as conidia. Zoospores, as you can see here, this is the example of Chlamydomonas, and this is the example for penicillium. So in zoospores, what happened? The zoo means what? Motile. So here they have, as you can see here, they have the flagella. So they have this sporangia. Chlamydomonas, they develop a covering that is called as a sporangia, and this sporangia has a flagella, and this flagella, they develop flagella which is motile, and that's why they can swing. It is motile in nature. While if you're talking about penicillium, the penicilliums have the small spores which are exogenous from the body, outside from the body, and that type of spores are called as a conidia. So again I am repeating, zoospores are endospores, they are formed inside the body, and conidia are the exospores which are formed outside the body. Found outside the body. Okay. Again, budding, and here we are talking about budding in multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms. So budding in the multicellular organisms again are of two types. One is called as an exogenous, and another one is called as an endogenous buds. Exogenous buds, we have studied the best example for the hydra. As you can see here, a small totipotent cell, they develop an outgrowth, that outgrowth matures, and then it detaches from the parental body. And this is going to form the new body. Another very interesting, that endogenous buds are also formed inside the body. That is called as an endogenous buds. Now remember here, previously what we have discussed, that is the exogenous and endogenous spores. Be careful about the wording. And now we are discussing, it is the exogenous, endogenous buds. So here, this structure is called as a gemule. This gemule is basically a characteristic feature of asexual reproduction in the sponges. With the sponges, it has a small opening here, and these are the archaeocyte cells. These are the archaeocyte cells. Now these archaeocyte cells develop into are the totipotent cells. We all know sponges are aquatic in the nature, so they are living in the water. So during the favorable condition, this mouth or micropyle, also called as a micropyle, this micropyle open, and as it opens, the archaeocyte cells come out from this and develop into the individual organism. Whatever spine-like structures you can see here, these all spine-like structures are called as spicules, which is playing the role of protection. Now, another one is the vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is again a very important mode in which the vegetative cells are participating. Now only we have discussed there are two types of cells, generative cells and vegetative cells. In the plant, the vegetative cells are basically root, shoot, stem, bud, or any modified inflorescence, whatever it is, and all comes under the vegetative propagation. So there are various parts of the plants which can be used as a vegetative propagation. The first example is root. So in the sweet potato and dahlia, you can see here, they are the modified roots. They have the swollen tubers, and these roots are acting as a separate part from the reproduction. So all of this individual is going to develop into the new individual. So that is called as the roots. Another underground stems. So here I have taken two examples. That is a stem tuber of potato. All we have potato is a very simple thing. It is available. So we can see here the germinating eyes which are present, and well, these all germinating eyes are going to be from the new individual. Similarly, if you are talking about the rhizome, the rhizomes have also, these are the nodes and internodes, and they have the small buds, as you can see here. So these small buds are again going to be formed as new individuals. Again, a very important thing, that is a bulbil. So bulbils are the modified parts. So these bulbils, for example, if I am talking about a gale, a very simple part here. So these bulbils, again actually the bulbil of a agave is a modified flower. Remember this thing? Again, it is very important part for question, 1 mark question. It's given in your NCERT book also. So agave is the modified part. Bulbil of a agave is a modified part, and this is again going to form the new individuals. In the same context, vegetative propagation, some of the sub-aerial parts are there, and these sub-aerial parts are again are very important for their vegetative propagation. The first one is first I have taken an example of offset of Eichhornia. Eichhornia, it is also called as terror of Bengal or normally water hyacinth. We all know water hyacinth. You must have seen it floating into the water bodies. So Eichhornia, if you see here, the one plant body is connected to the another one, right? So actually what happened, this is the main parental body, and this parental body develop a small branches, sub-aerial part, which is called as an offset, and this offset again develop into the new individual, and like that their reproduction develops. So detail of Eichhornia, about the economical importance and hazard caused by Eichhornia we will discuss in upcoming lectures. So next one is rhizomes of ginger. So next one is runner. So here when we are talking about the runners are they have the branches, as you can see in the wild strawberry. So a small branch, that small branch will come out, and when this is sown inside when this is light inside the soil, it forms various types of roots, and that's why these roots are the adventitious roots. And this, if you cut from here, this plant will develop into another plant, and this plant will develop into the another plant. So that is the runners. Another a very important part of a vegetative reproduction, that is the leaf. You all have studied about the bryophyllum. So bryophyllum, there is a marginal buds, as you can see from the margins. The buds are there, the adventitious buds are there, and these all adventitious buds are going to develop into an individual plants. So these buds have a property of totipotency. They are present at the margins of the leaves. So if you take a leaf of bryophyllum and simply throw it on the ground, after a few days you will find that the adventitious roots will start coming out and new plants are formed. The last part of this topic is grafting. We know grafting is a mechanism where we can, it has two parts. One is called as a stalk, another one is called as a scion, stalk, and another one is called as a section or scion. Scion is the upper part and stalk is the lower part. It is a major mode of reproduction, vegetative reproduction for mangoes, right? You all have heard about in Indian language, which is called as a kalmi arm. So what do you mean by the kalmi arm? Kalam means that section. So here, it has a well-developed rooting system. It has a shoot buds. So when we tie it off, we can make a fissure. We can make a section here that the stalk will be, the scion will be inserted into the stalk, and then it will be tied and tied properly. And this, we use various types of hormones. Can you tell me which hormone is responsible for this? Yes, you are right, and that is cytokinin. That is cytokinin hormone. So cytokinin hormones are sprayed here, which is present in the form of a kinetin or zeatin in the coconut milk. So that coconut milk we are using for here. So this is all about today's my topic. Again, let us recapitulate what we have studied today. We have studied about lifespan, studied about reproduction, various mechanisms, various types of reproduction, various types of what is asexual reproduction, what is its property, various types of asexual reproduction along with this example. Students, note one thing. NCERT book is a mandatory book, is a compulsory book if you want to success in your board examination and God will upcoming NEET examination. So go through NCERT book in a very, very depth way. Again, I am leaving you here with few questions. So the questions, definitely the questions are coming in your mind and important. If some questions you have, that means thank you, you have listened and watched my video in a very sincere way. And if not, then try to generate some questions. Stay home, stay safe, and stay enlightened. Again, we will see you in a short time while taking this next lecture of this class. Thank you.